Hello and welcome to Tech for Non-Techies, the only podcast that demystifies the fast-growing technology sector. I'm your host, Sophia Matveeva, Chicago-based MBA and tech entrepreneur. My aim here is to give you the skills, knowledge and confidence to find opportunities in the tech sector, whether that's through founding a company, getting a dream job, or bringing a fresh perspective to your work. Hello. In this episode, I wanted to cover what non-technical founders do apart from working on the tech. Obviously, non-technical founders are not writing the code. It kind of says so in the name. But non-technical founders are inevitably involved in the product, or at least they should be if they're doing their job right. I'm a non-technical founder. I'm definitely involved in the product. I personally think being involved in the product is fun, it's interesting, it's innovative. But the bad news is that as well as being involved in the product, you have to do a whole host of other jobs. The reason why I wanted to cover this today is that we have so often covered what technology skills or product management skills non-technical professionals need to know in order to succeed in the tech world. But the bad news is that it is not enough. But let's start with the myths. One of the myths is that non-technical founders don't have that much to do, especially at the beginning. While the product is in stealth mode, so stealth mode means that while the product is basically still being built and it's not there for you to see and feel and use, some people might think that all of the effort is going on building the technology, so non-technical founders don't really have much to do. Unfortunately, not true. Another myth is that non-technical founders need to learn to code in order to add value. If you've listened to any of these podcast episodes, you will know that I definitely do not believe that. You need to learn some aspects of code. You need to maybe take a 3-hour coding course just to understand the basics of how this stuff works. But don't think that you need to completely transition career and become a coder and start building your backend yourself. No, hire people and set them the right tasks. Another myth, which I personally really don't like, is that non-technical founders offer less value than technical ones. That's simply not true, and it leads me on to what I always say is that every company is a yin and yang. You need somebody to make the product and you need somebody to sell the product. If you are super good at making product and you are super crap at selling product, guess what? You don't have a business. So yes, by all means, have a fantastic technical team. But if you cannot sell what they are making, or if you cannot raise money for what they're making, you're not going to get very far. I wanted to quote my friend David Segura when I interviewed him for Forbes about his advice for non-technical founders. I love listening to David because he has sold his advertising technology company very successfully. And now he is one of New York's top angel investors. And he's invested in over 50 startups. And he says that you should become fluent and knowledgeable of software trends and best practices. Learn how to manage a technical endeavor from both a project and a product standpoint. But you will not get credit or a moral victory for becoming an average coder in a world that only values excellence. I just love that. You will not get a credit or a moral victory for becoming an average coder in a world that only values excellence. He goes on to say, recruit and inspire technical talent or co-founders to work alongside you and get over your insecurities as soon as you possibly can. Well, David, that's easier said than done, but I definitely agree with you. So non-technical founders need to understand the basics of how technology works. So you need to learn the concept. But you don't actually need the skills of building this stuff yourself because you're not going to be writing the code. So what are you going to be doing? In general, non-technical founders are usually the interface between the technology team and the users. So while you are not making the designs and while you are not writing the code or you're not creating the architecture, so in other words, you are not making the product, you're working out whether the product needs to exist and what product needs to exist in the first place. You can summarize this by saying that non-technical founders need to focus on making the right product and not getting the product right. So, very basically, if the code is perfect and the user experience is seamless, if the product is fantastic, but it doesn't solve a problem that anybody actually has. It's not the tech team that is messed up. It is the person who has hired the tech team because they have been solving a problem that doesn't exist. So what non-technical founders constantly need to do is study the market. And I don't mean just sit there and read McKinsey reports, but study the market by interviewing users, seeing what problems they have, how are they solving those problems, can you solve those problems in an easier way? Once you're uncovering their problems, then you can work with a product team to create solutions. But before you start building any tech, make sure that the problem you're solving is one that's worth solving and one that you can make money solving. So non-technical founders focus on making the right product and not getting the product right. If you want to delve deeper into design thinking, what I'd suggest you do is either listen to the episodes that we have on design. We've got a couple of really excellent ones. Or join Tech for Non-Techies, where you'll be able to see a whole design section with learning notes and interviews with leading experts. Another thing that non-technical founders have to do is setting the big vision. So that's understanding what the end goal is. That means focusing on the big picture and then working back from there. Again, that's not something that you can outsource to your developers because your developers are working on creating a solution to a specific problem. It is not their job to have a global vision for your company. But honestly, having a big vision, understanding a big picture, it matters. It matters to you because you need to have something to get excited about, and also it matters to your team. And when I say big vision, you don't have to be one of those super annoying Silicon Valley people who say, we're going to change the world by, I don't know, making better toilet seats. The thing you're building doesn't have to solve world hunger, although of course it would be brilliant if it did. But what I'm saying is that you need to go beyond just what are we going to be doing tomorrow or what are we going to be doing in a year's time. And ideally, your big vision shouldn't be just we create this thing and then we sell it and we make lots of money. Because that might be exciting to you, but it's probably not going to be exciting to the rest of the team. When you set a big vision and you tell people about it, people generally get quite excited about it. But you can't just say, we just have this big vision and then I'm just going to sit here and then good things are going to happen to me because I have a big vision. You need to set the big vision and then have very concrete, specific steps to get there. It doesn't mean that you need to have a detailed roadmap from now until year 5, but just have an understanding of what you're going to do today and tomorrow and where you aim to be going. So, I'm going to give you an example using Tech for Non-Techies because if you're listening to this, you know something about what I'm doing. So my big vision for Tech for Non-Techies is to bridge the digital divide. I believe that basic knowledge of how apps and algorithms are built is a life skill like literacy or numeracy. The job opportunities available to people who are illiterate or innumerate are much more limited to those who can read and to those who can add up. And I believe that in the society that we're living in today, people who don't have basic knowledge of how apps and algorithms are built are also massively limiting their career potential and their earning potential. I believe that if we bridge the digital divide between the techies and the non-techies, we will co-create better products, we will build better companies, and therefore we will have a fairer society. In order to get to that vision, I have to take specific steps, and some of them involve technology, but a lot of them don't. The steps to get to that vision are that I create content, I explain tech concepts in an accessible way to non-technical people. I do this via a podcast, also through our weekly events on our membership, and through our online course. Another step is that I need to make sure that people can find it, and that's marketing. There's no point of creating all of this good stuff and then not telling anybody about it. That's why I also ask everybody who listens to this to rate and review the podcast so other people can find out about this content. And then the third step is to make it financially viable. As much as I love doing this and as much as I love sharing this knowledge, I also have to pay my bills. And as the company grows, I have to now employ people at Tech for Non-Techies and pay for various aspects of technical infrastructure. So that means that not all of the content can be free. So as a non-technical founder, you're responsible for creating that vision and setting that vision and also telling your team about it. And then you're responsible for beginning to break down the steps to get to that vision. This is important because it's going to inspire them. And wouldn't you rather work with people who are inspired by you than people who are just turning up to do their jobs? And also, if you're working with smart and interesting and dedicated people, and you tell them the big vision, and you say, well, I think these are the steps to get there, they might have better ideas to help you get there sooner. Which leads me on to my third point. As a non-technical founder, you have to hire and lead a team. And here, this means that you have to hire a technical team, but also you have to hire a non-technical team. And all of those people have to know the vision that you're working towards because they're all going to be working together to help you make it come to life. As a non-technical founder, you will have to hire a technical team and you won't know how to interview developers. You won't know how to review a GitHub account. And that is totally normal. What you need here is you need to have some kind of technical lead or a technical advisor who will help you do that. When you're leading your product team, you have to give them your vision. You have to share the vision with them. But as I was saying in the last point, an inspired team is going to help you get to that vision in a way that maybe you didn't envisage yourself. So with the product team, you are setting a product goal, which is part of getting to your vision, and you're not telling your team how exactly to get to that product goal. Because realistically, as a non-technical founder, you cannot tell your backend developer how to write the backend code because you don't know. But what you can do is you can say, this is the product metric that we need to reach within the next 3 months. The reason why we have this product metric for the next 3 months is because this 3-month segment is part of a bigger strategy that helps us get to that bigger vision. So far, we've covered the following jobs for non-technical founders. As a non-technical founder, you are the interface between the users and the product team. So you're focusing on making the right product, not getting the product right. And this is basically design thinking, which you can learn about either on Tech for Non-Techies or just scroll up to previous episodes of this very podcast. Another aspect of the non-technical founder's job is setting the vision. That means understanding your end goal, telling your team about it, and then working back from that end goal to what you are going to do today about it. In order to make your grand vision come to life, you need a team. So you're going to have to hire and lead a team. In order to hire your product team, you're going to need a technical lead or a technical advisor. Do not try to hire developers yourself as a non-technical founder without any help. Just too many things could go wrong. And getting a technical advisor or a technical lead is really not that hard. And once you have your wonderful product team in place, you have to share your grand vision with them. But then, as we said, your grand vision is broken down into specific steps that you're going to be taking. And those specific steps are goals. So share your goals, share your product goals with them, and help them understand how the product goals fit into the grand vision. And when you're setting your product goals, you're telling your product team about where you want to go, but you're not telling them how to get there. You also have to make sure that your team gets paid, which means that you have to either fundraise or sell, and that's a whole other episode or maybe even a course. But if you found this useful and you want more of this, there's a whole masterclass on key skills for non-technical founders with notes that you can download and a masterclass that you can watch at your leisure. So just sign up for Tech for Non-Techies membership and you'll be able to get access to this masterclass as well as all of our upcoming masterclasses, our library of content. You'll also join a really unique professional community of non-technical professionals who are working on transitioning into tech or building their tech ventures. And you'll get monthly live coaching from me on our regular Q&A calls. So basically, what's not to like? Sign up for Tech for Non-Techies. The link is in the show notes, or just go to techfornontechies.co. And finally, if you enjoyed this episode, which I hope you did, it would be wonderful if you left a rating and a review. Honestly, it really does help this content get discovered and help people like you navigate the tech world. Thank you so much for listening, and have a lovely day.